Hello, Oscar. Grandpa here. I hope you're having a fun time. I hope you enjoyed the water park yesterday. That looked really terrific. So, and it's lots of love from me and from Moosey. Say hello, Moosey. Hello, Oscar. Hello, give Oscar a wave. Hello, Oscar. And I hope you're all well, and your little sister Annabelle, and Mummy and Daddy. So I thought I'd read you a little bit more from How to Train Your Dragon. It's getting really exciting, isn't it? If you remember, there's a absolutely stupendously enormous dragon down on the beach, and they don't know how to get rid of it. And somebody said they've got to yell at it. Gobber said, yell at it. Yell at it. That's it, said Gobber. Yell at it. So, anyway, nothing's happened yet. And the tribes of Meathead and Hooligan gathered at the top of the cliffs of the long beach and looked down at the impossibly vast serpent stretched out on the sand, smacking its lips as it devoured the last morsels of its late unfortunate companion. Oh, that's horrible, isn't it? It was so big that it seemed unlikely that it could be alive until you saw it move like an earthquake or a trick of the eyes. There are times when size really is important, thought Hiccup to himself, and this is one of them. Dragons are vain, cruel, and immoral creatures, as I've said. This is all very well when they are a lot smaller than you are, but when a dragon's bad nature is multiplied into something the size of a hillside, how do you deal with it? Gobber the Belch stepped forward to lead the yelling, as the most respected yeller among them all. His chest swelled with pride. So look, there's Gobber the Belch. He does look like he's going to be able to yell really big yell. His chest swelled with pride. 1, 2, 3. 400 Viking voices screamed as one. Go away! And added for good measure the Viking war cry. The Viking war cry was designed to chill the blood of Viking enemies at the commencement of battle. It is a horrifying, electrifying shriek that begins by mimicking the furious yell of a swooping predator, which then turns into the victim's scream of pure terror and ends with a horribly realistic imitation of the death gurgles as he chokes on his own blood. Ooh, Oscar, that's horrible, isn't it? It is a scary noise at the best of times, but shouted all together by 400 barbarians at 8 o'clock in the morning, it was enough to make the mighty Thor himself drop his hammer and blub like a little baby. There was an impressive silence. The mighty dragon then turned his mighty head in their direction. There were 400 gasps as a pair of evil yellow eyes, as big as 6 tall men, narrowed down to slits. The dragon opened its mouth and let out a sound so loud and so terrifying that 4 or 5 passing seagulls dropped down dead with fear on the spot. It was a noise that made the Viking war cry seem like the faint cry of a newborn baby in comparison. It was a terrible, alien, otherworldly noise that promised death and no mercy and everything awful. There was another impressive silence. With one delicate movement of his talon, Dragon ripped through Gobber's tunic and trousers from head to toe, as if he were peeling fruit. Gobber gave a most unheroic shriek of outraged modesty. Oh dear, look, he split, look, there's the dragon's talon splitting Gobber's clothes. The dragon placed the same talon upright in front of Gobber the Belch and flicked him like a spitball, way, way away over the Vikings' heads and over the walled fortifications of the village. The dragon put his vast cracked old paw to his reptilian lips and blew the Vikings a kiss. The kiss streaked through the sky and scored a direct hit on both Stoik and Mogadon's ships, which had survived the storm and were rocking in the safety of Hooligan Harbour. All 50 of them burst simultaneously into flames. Oh my goodness me, Oscar. The Vikings ran away from that cliff as fast as their 800 legs could carry them. Gobber the Belch had the luck to land on the roof of his own house. The deep layers of soggy grass broke his fall as he went through them, and he ended up sitting stark naked in his own front chair in front of the fire, dazed but unharmed. "Okay then," said Stoik to 400 Vikings, suddenly looking scared but wildly overexcited. "So the yelling doesn't work." They had reassembled in the centre of the village. "And as our fleet is out of action, we have no means of escape from the island," Stoik continued. "What we need now," he said, trying to sound as if he was on top of the situation, "is for somebody to go and ask the monster whether he comes in peace or in war." "I shall go," volunteered Gobber, who rejoined them at that moment, still determined to be the hero of the hour. He was trying to sound noble and dignified, but it is very difficult to be truly dignified with grass in your hair and wearing your cousin Agatha's dress, which was the only thing Gobber could find to wear in the house. There he is, look, Gobber wearing cousin Agatha's dress. Oh my goodness me, doesn't he look silly? "Do you speak Dragonese, Gobber?" asked Stoik in surprise. "Well, no," Gobber admitted. "Nobody here speaks Dragonese. It's forbidden by order of Stoik the Vast." "Oh, hear his name and tremble. Dragons are inferior creatures who we yell at. Dragons might get above themselves if we talk to them. Dragons are tricksy and must be kept in their place." "Hiccup can speak to dragons," said Fishlegs very quietly from the middle of the crowd. "Shh," Fishlegs whispered Hiccup, desperately digging his friend in the ribs. "Well, you can," said Fishlegs stoutly. "Don't you see? This is your chance to be a hero. And we're all going to die anyway, so you might as well take it." "Hiccup can speak to dragons," shouted Fishlegs very loudly indeed. "Hiccup?" said Gobber the Belch. "Hiccup?" said Stoik the Vast. "Yes, Hiccup," said Old Wrinkly. "Small boy, red hair, freckles, you were going to put him into exile this morning." Old Wrinkly looked stern. "In order that the blood of the tribe should not be weakened. Remember? Your son Hiccup." "I know who a Hiccup is, thank you, Old Wrinkly," said Stoik the Vast uncomfortably. "Does anyone know where he is? Hiccup, come forward. It looks like you could come in useful after all." Old Wrinkly murmured to himself. "Here he is," yelled Fishlegs, patting Hiccup on the back. Hiccup started to wriggle through the crowd until somebody noticed him and dragged him up, and he was passed over everybody's heads and put down in front of Stoik. "Hiccup," said Stoik, "is it true that you can talk to dragons?" Hiccup nodded. Stoik gave an awkward cough. "This is an embarrassing situation. I know that we were about to banish you from the tribe. However, if you do what I ask, I'm sure I speak for everybody when I say that you can consider yourself unbanished. We stand in awful peril, and nobody else in this room can speak Dragonese. Will you go to this monster and ask him whether he comes in peace or in war?" Hiccup said nothing. Stoik coughed again. "You can talk to me," said Stoik. "I've unbanished you." "So the exile is off then, is it, father?" asked Hiccup. "If I go and kill myself talking to this beast from hell, I will be considered heroic enough to join the true tribe of hooligans." Stoik looked more embarrassed than ever. "Absolutely," he said. "Okay then," said Hiccup. "I'll do it." And there's Hiccup looking determined. Whoa. Chapter 12, The Green Death. Ooh, that sounds a bit scary. It is one thing to approach a primeval nightmare when you are part of a crowd of 400 people. It is quite another to do so on your own. Hiccup had to force himself to put one foot in front of the other. Stoik offered to send a guard of his finest soldiers, but Hiccup preferred to go alone. "Less chance of anybody doing anything heroic and stupid," he said. Although this is the part of the story that the bards tend to focus on as the bit where Hiccup was particularly heroic, I do not agree. It is a lot easier to be brave when you know you have no alternative. Hiccup knew in his heart of hearts that the monster intended to kill them all anyway, so he didn't have a lot to lose. Nonetheless, he was sweating as he peered over the edge of the cliff. There below him was the impossibly large dragon, filling up the beach. It appeared to be asleep. But an eerie singing was coming from the direction of its belly. The song went something like this. Watch me, great destroyer, as I settle down to lunch. Killer whales are tasty 'cause they've got lots of crunch. Great white sharks are scrumptious, but here's a little tip. Those teeny weeny pointy teeth can give a nasty nip. How odd, thought Hiccup. He can sing with his mouth shut. Hiccup nearly jumped clear of his leggings when the dragon opened both his crocodile eyes and spoke directly to him. Why so odd, said the dragon, who appeared to be amused. A dragon with its eyes shut is not necessarily asleep, so it follows that a dragon with his mouth shut is not necessarily singing. All is not what it seems. That noise that you can hear is not me at all. That, my hero, is the sound of a singing supper. A singing supper, echoed Hiccup, quickly remembering that should never ever look into the eyes of a large malevolent dragon like this one. He fixed his gaze firmly on one of the dragon's talons instead. This was a mistake, as Hiccup suddenly realised that the dragon was holding a herd of pathetically bleating sheep captive under one massive claw. He pretended to allow one of them to escape, let the poor animal practically reach the safety of the rocks, then picked it up by its wool with a delicate pincer movement and tossed it way, way up into the air. This was a trick Hiccup had often done himself, but with blackberries. Now the dragon threw back his great head and the woolly speck fell down into the terrible gorge, which closed behind it with a mighty crash. Ugh. There was a horrible sound of crunching as he chewed and swallowed the unfortunate sheep. Oh, Oscar, that's horrible, isn't it? The dragon saw Hiccup watching him in fascinated horror, and he brought his ridiculously enormous head down closer to the boy. Hiccup nearly passed out as his offensive dragon breath poured out in the disgusting yellow-green vapour. It was the stench of death itself, a deep head-spinning stench of decaying matter, of rotting haddock heads and sweating whale, of long-dead shark and despairing souls. The revolting steam curled its way around the boy in repellent coils and wormed its way up into his nose until he coughed and spluttered. Some people say you should debone a sheep before you eat it, sneered the dragon confidentially, but I think it adds just a nice crunch to what would otherwise be a bit of a soggy meal. The dragon burped. The belt came out as a perfect loop of fire that soared through the air like a smoke ring and landed on the heather surrounding Hiccup, setting it alight, so that for a moment he was standing right in the middle of a circle of bright green flames. Oh my goodness! The heather was damp, however, and the blaze flared for only a few moments, then extinguished itself. Oops, giggled the dragon evilly. Pardon me, a little party trick. He then placed one gigantic claw against the edge of the cliff that Hiccup was standing on. Humans, however, continued the dragon thoughtfully, humans really should be filleted. The spine in particular can be very tickly as it goes down the throat. As the dragon spoke, he extended his claws, the talons slowly emerging from the thick stumps of his fingers and rising up until they resembled nothing more than gigantic razors, 6 feet wide and 20 feet long, with points on the end like a surgeon's scalpel. Oh, Oscar! Awful. Removing the human backbone is a delicate job, hissed the dragon nastily, but one that I'm particularly good at. A small incision at the back of the neck. He gestured at Hiccup's neck. A swift stroke downwards, then flickered out. It's practically painless for me. The dragon's eyes look up with purest pleasure. And look, that's the dragon's tail. And there's Hiccup underneath. He's so tiny, isn't he, by comparison? Oh, my goodness me. Hiccup was thinking very fast indeed. There is nothing like staring death in the face for speeding up your thoughts. What did he know about dragons that could work against an invincible monster like this one? He could see the dragon motivation page he had written in his mind's eye. Gratitude. Dragons are never grateful. Fear. Clearly hopeless. Greed. Not a good idea to appeal to at this particular point in time. Vanity and revenge could be useful, but he couldn't quite think how. That left jokes and riddling talk. This dragon looked a bit exalted for jokes, but from his manner of talking he clearly fancied himself as a bit of a philosopher. Maybe Hiccup could buy himself some time if he engaged him in a riddling conversation. So there, Oscar. I think we're going to hear some exciting stuff next time, but that's just enough for today. And lots of love from me and Granny and Moosey. Bye, Oscar, and lots of love to you and Mummy and Daddy and your little sister. And have fun tomorrow on your Canada Day, I think it is. So have lots of fun. Bye for now. Bye, Oscar.